I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Welcome to Camnet TV's main news, the headlines. A report reveals continued political cadres infiltration in markets and bus stations. ZAMSTATS implores the Zambia police to deal with people harassing census enumerators. And youths in LUSAKA'S CHIBOLYA compound abandon criminal activities. And in international news, floods in Sudan leave 100 dead, many homeless. And in sports, Zambia's ladies golf national team set for the 2022 All Africa Challenge Trophy. Details coming through after this commercial.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet television, not just another channel.
In other main news in detail, the 1997 and 1998 retrenched government Friday stormed Cabinet Office to inquire on the terminal benefits that have protracted since for 25 years. The workers have dispelled claims by Southern Province Minister and United Party for National Development Cornelius Mwitwa suggesting that retirees have been paid. The retirees have lamented that life is unbearable. Acting Secretary to the Cabinet, Patrick Kangwa, who addressed the former government workers, assured them that President Hakainde Hichilema's administration is paying attention to the people's needs.
For a moment, one may be compelled to think this is a church gathering, but no, these are former government workers who were retrenched in 1997 and 1998 respectively, pursuing their terminal benefits while using faith in the gospel of Jesus Christ to overcome tribulations. 25 years later, the pursuit continues. Others have died, and their children have inherited the trouble of frequenting government offices to seek answers on the delayed payment.
Up to now, these people have not been paid. I must state that those who are saying that those people who camped at Ministry of Justice were cleared, they are just lying. This is the same group which camped at the Ministry of Justice for 5 months during the PF regime, and even up to this new Dawn government, they have not gotten their monies.
This case has been ongoing for a longer period of time. This is now 23 to 25 years. Yes. And you see these people, a lot of people have died. If you come to our offices, you see a lot of people have died without collecting their monies.
The president of the association informed these journalists that the journey has been bad.
We are not retirees. Yes. We are retrenchees. We are retrenched in 1997 and in 1998. From that time to date, we have not been paid our terminal benefits. Provincial Minister, Southern Province, Honorable Mwetwa, mentioned on one of the medias that those people who are camping at Ministry of Justice are already paid. I'm sorry, Honorable. These are the people. Yes. They are not paid.
Yes.
Honorable, my advice is, you should inform or brief the head of state, President Hakainde Hichilema, the truth.
Acting Secretary to the Cabinet, Patrick Kangwa, later came to address the victims, and before starting the meeting, he requested for a prayer, which was equally an opportunity to lobby for a quick intervention. And Mr. Kangwa explained that he has been in contact with the representatives of the organization to bring the matter to a logical conclusion, stating that he has directed line ministries to work on their case so that it can be quickly resolved.
You don't have to come if you like. Vasakala Havana group anytime they want. I will remember. We'll bring you to my office. If international change, UPND government, new done. 11 feel good. Makada Tamuli Musevo, if you have violence, Takuli. Vasakala. They mulomba na want to them. The office never come. Different. Opening remarks. Never come. But never not the president.
The people had questions.
Why? Please. Our father, Mr. Akaine, do us, give us, help us. Our family has suffered for 24 years, 25.
And the matter was mutually adjourned with a next week appointment. Among key promises President Hakainde Hichilema has made is addressing the plight of former government workers. The hope of this group is that they will be the next ones to smile. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
According to the fieldwork conducted by the Southern Africa Institute for Policy and Research between December 2021 and March 2022, Zambia is still grappling with political cadre influence, especially in markets and bus stations. Reading a statement on behalf of cooperating partners, Caritas Zambia Executive Director, Father Gabriel Mapulanga, says the report reveals that political cadres in markets and bus stations have negatively affected the local authorities' capacity to raise finances through the collection of levy. Father Mapulanga notes that this is because cadres collect levies on behalf of the council, thereby perpetuating the cycle of poverty for the victims and loss of revenue for the local authority. Meanwhile, Saipa Maja is calling on the local authority to have merchandise system of recording information for easy accountability and understanding by interested stakeholders.
Political cadre interference in the way markets and bus stations are being run, especially in the previous administration, has revealed that the local authority, otherwise known as the council, has failed to realize maximum potential in revenue collection. Addressing the media based on a report that was conducted by Southern Institute for Policy and Research dubbed Counting the Cost, Political Cadres and its Impact on Livelihoods and Financial Sustainability of Local Authorities, Caritas Zambia Executive Director Father Gabriel Mapulanga says while cadres have significantly reduced their appearance in bus stations and markets, more political will in terms of legislation to completely wipe out the scourge is needed. Recommendations have since been made on how best this can be achieved.
This research, we concluded that council revenue was affected in 3 significant ways. First, councils were unable to collect revenue on a regular basis. Second, they had to share the revenue with party-related cadres. And thirdly, illegal bus stations and markets were established where councils could not collect the fees. This especially affected the larger towns and the transport hubs. The possible steps would include the introduction of elective boards in all markets Currently, the boards are appointed by the Minister of Local Government.
The briefing was attended by CSOs, among them the Operation Young Vote Executive Director, Ges Nyerenda, also added his voice.
The President himself has just put his foot down, and because of that, we see that even his lieutenants or his appointees, I think those of us who follow the media, social media or traditional media, we saw how the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development did attend to some CAD, I think it was in Useko Market, where he wanted to, show that they are in charge. But he said, no, you cannot be in charge here. Be in charge at your own home.
And GEAR's Executive Director, McDonough Chipenzi, attributed the scourge of cadreism to lack of employment.
I think that the challenge that we have with these cadres, why they continue to emerge, is a failure by political parties to look after their members. So because they don't have any plan to create jobs, any plan to put these people to productive use, they just throw them, dump them at the market, dump them at the bus stations to collect whatever they collect. And surprisingly enough, that little money that these cadres get, it also goes to the party officials. And that's why there's that reinforcement of these cadres at the market.
Meanwhile, a research institute, SIPA, has called on the local authorities to organize their recording systems.
We also need access to information. And I think that's one of the other big debates that we're having, access to information. Because even, like we said in the study, in the council, data was really difficult to get. So how can we actually measure things if we don't have access to proper data? So it's really my appeal to those institutions to have better accessibility to data. I think it will help themselves as well if they can analyze the trends within their own revenue.
Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Over 100 youths in CHIBOLYA compound of Kanyama constituency have committed to abandoning unproductive vices such as robbery and other crimes following empowerment through the office of the area councillor working with various partners. Speaking to Camnet News, the youths who have been equipped with various sporting items say engaging in sporting activities will further help them raise funds which they can use for other business ventures. Meanwhile, Harry Mwangankumbula, Ward 12 Councillor Aaron Mwanza, who is the area councillor, says crime is expected to reduce in the community following this empowerment as crime levels have been high in the community due to youth unproductivity.
This is a gathering at CHIBOLYA Community School of Kanyama constituency in Lusaka, which has brought together youth and school-going children to benefit under various empowerment opportunities which are being done under the office of the area councillor, working with various partners. The move has come about following identification of the area as a high crime zone owing to youth unproductivity, as well as high levels of vulnerability within the community. The youth who are empowered with various sporting items say this will help them earn a living through this venture, hence reducing crime levels.
I would like to thank the organizers of this committee for giving us this book to motivate us from drug abuse. This thing keeps us away from unwanted things to us, because the time we are spending at the ground, we find that we are not taking part in these other illiterate things.
Parents of children, including those with disabilities who were empowered with various school items to support the free education initiative, said this will motivate the children who struggle with these items to work hard at school.
For the education, we encourage our disabled people and the community to support them to go to the school, because most of the disabled people, when they go in government schools, they are being discriminated.
In a separate interview, Harry Mwangankumbula, Ward 12 Councillor Aaron Mwanza, says the empowerment will help in bridging social inequalities in the area.
As you may see, most of these children, they are vulnerable. They are orphans. So such programs, we shall continue helping the community in this manner, and we are also calling other social corporate partners to come on board so that we help the vulnerable children so that we have a bright future.
Meanwhile, Publicity Secretary of the Future Foundation, a non-governmental organization working against crime in the community in Ngozapiri, has also spoken out.
And also that we believe in their foundation, we believe in their future. And those like Chibolya, it has been known for people that abuse drugs. We also want to let them know that we believe in them as an organization, and we believe that together we can do something. Together we can make this community a better place.
The empowerment done under the office of the area councillor was supported by partners such as China Mo and others from the international community at a cost of 25,000 kwacha, who have further called on others to come on board. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Residents of Apakaleya ward in Chikankata district of Southern Province have continued walking over 20 kilometers to access healthcare after construction works at the Apakaleya Health Center under the Constituency Development Fund CDF were abandoned by a contracted company in 2021. In an interview, one of the residents, Ndeyeni Monga, says this has been hard for pregnant women, children, and the aged needing health care at the distance, as the distance is cumbersome. Meanwhile, Chikankata Member of Parliament, Jacqueline Savoy, who visited the abandoned health center, says an official letter has been written to the contracted company to complete the projects, stating that wasting of public assets will not be entertained under the current administration.
While citizens in Zambia's urban areas have the privilege of choosing between numerous public and private healthcare facilities, still have to walk distances of as far as 20 kilometers just to access basic health care. This is the case of residents of Apakaleya ward in Chikankata district of Southern Province, a situation that has taken a toll on pregnant women, children, those critically sick, and the aged. All this has been happening despite the construction of a local health center having begun in 2020 under the Constituency Development Fund, as the works have remained a white elephant for 1 year now after the contracted company abandoned the site. One of the residents, Ndeyeni Monga, was speaking to Camnet News.
So we watujanigira wamba kuti kuenda chintu chimwe chatujaya. So clinic tulomboya kuti unomwaga itiani imane botuyenda kuti imane gotoka abantu ba community baba free hintu honse.
In a separate interview, Apakaleya ward councillor Davis Katoa, along with Chonga village headman Hachikamba Hachibilika, have bemoaned the situation, urging the contractor to come back on site.
Again, we requested for more funding from CDF for 2021, where we are given money to do the sewer system, to drill borehole, raise the tank stand and the tank, and do the wiring inside. All those were done in 2021. Though there were some delayments, the contractors were not doing or working seriously. The works which were supposed to be done in 2 months, 3 months, have taken 1 year. As a result, up to now, the health center has not been opened, officially opened, because of some delayments.
Meanwhile, Chikankata constituency Member of Parliament Jacqueline Savao says the trend of abandoning works using public resources will not be entertained under the current administration.
Because the only clinic from this area is 20 kilometers from this place, which has been a challenge for our mothers, especially the pregnant mothers and also the under 5 children. Hence, as the new Dawn government, we've allocated some resources for this clinic, and I know the next 3 months we'll finish this project. This contractor, we've written to him as CDF committee to come and answer some questions, because this is government resources. It's not his personal resources. You need to refund back so that we can continue the project.
The MP has also reviewed that 500,000 kwacha to build 2 houses for health workers at the clinic has been allocated under the 2022 Constituency Development Fund. Road maintenance has also begun in the constituency using local government equalization fund. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Chikankata District.
The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, has underscored the need for the Zambian government to look beyond the International Monetary Fund program and develop a more aggressive homegrown solution to stimulate domestic resource mobilization with emphasis on private sector-led economic growth. JCTR Executive Director Father Alex Muyebe says it is critical that Zambian government must not become complacent in the face of this historic achievement of the $1.3 billion United States loan, but do more to restore and sustain fiscal stability. Meanwhile, economist Trevor Hambai has challenged the government to find local solutions to finance the 8th National Development Plan instead of relying so much on borrowed resources.
Several stakeholders have continued to applaud the Zambian government for managing to get on the International Monetary Fund IMF program, being that the bailout package will help structure the nation's large public debt portfolio, which has negatively affected the growth of the country. The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, however, says it is critical that the Zambian government must not become complacent in the face of getting a $1.3 billion United States package, but look beyond the IMF program and develop a more aggressive homegrown solution to stimulate domestic resource mobilization with emphasis on private sector-led economic growth.
Beyond the International Monetary Fund program, the government must develop a more aggressive homegrown solutions to stimulate domestic resource mobilization with emphasis on private sector-led economic growth. JCTR also urges citizenry not to remain docile on matters of national interest, but to take a keen interest, especially in the utilization of the public resources.
Meanwhile, economist Trevor Hambai has also challenged the government to invest the borrowed resources in sectors that will guarantee a return so that it is easy to pay back the loan.
If we are going to utilize these resources are supposed to be used for balance of payment, which means that we use the money to be paying our debt liabilities on an annual basis for the next 3 years. And then we use the domestic resources that we generate to be able to drive economic recovery, so that at the end of the 3 years, when we have to start paying our debt servicing, we have the resources to be able to do this.
Mr. Hambai has also urged the government to find homegrown solutions to finance the 8th National Development Plan if it is to be successfully implemented.
Our strategic development plan must also be aligned in our capacity to be able to generate revenue, which is domestic revenue, to finance this development. Then we would know where the resources are going to come from and how we are going to actually mobilize these resources. The key issue that you have found is that we seem to be driving an agenda around economic development, but we are still having to finance this from debt financing, which is from the budget.
As Zambia looks to economic recovery, the private sector have a role to play to ensure the growth of the country. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
A clergyman, Bishop Lubinda Nalumango, has urged the churches in Zambia to take an active role in praying for the country's economic revival, stating that prayers should not only be held on the 18th of October of every year, which is the official national day of prayer, fasting and reconciliation for Zambia. Speaking to Camnet News at the ongoing National Revival Prayer Network Crusade held in Kanyama constituency Friday, Bishop Nalumango says Zambia is a Christian nation should consider prayer as the first option in dealing with its social and economic challenges. The Revival Prayer Network Zambia is in association with the church mother bodies, among other clergy, have set up the Revival Prayer Program, which they say will be held in various parts of the country to encourage the church to take a proactive stance on various national issues.
It's twofold. We are praying for the church so that the church can come together and then start churching. I'm sure you know what we mean. Then from there, we are also praying for the revival. We need a revival in Zambia. You can hear what the man is praying about there. We are praying for the debt to come down. The debt that Zambia is owing, we are praying that it goes off. We are praying for the mercies of God upon the land. Zambia is a Christian nation. We need the grace of God so that He can gather us together and then we start living as Christians. Everything starts first. The victory of everything starts in the spirit, in the supernatural. You see, when everything in the supernatural has been attained, it becomes easy in the natural. So prayer is, that is the best tool God has given to mankind to release Himself. Revival Prayer Network, as you can see, you can hear the crowd. This will take place around the whole country. We are going to do this continuously around the whole country to pray for Zambia, to pray for ourselves, to pray for our children.
In other news, the Zambia Statistical Agency, ZAMSTATS, has urged the Zambia police to deal with the perpetrators of bad vices on the enumerators of the current census of housing and population. ZAMSTATS interim statistician General Mlenga Msepa says the enumerators are facing several challenges to access some homes, especially in Lusaka and Ndola in the Copper Belts. Mr. Mlenga says the census results will help the country to effectively formulate policies and strategies for sustained socio-economic planning. He has since appealed to members of the general public to be cooperative with enumerators and find time to be counted. Meanwhile, Ministry of Information Permanent Secretary Kenneth Kalunga says the census exercise is not for individual or political parties, but a national exercise which all members of the general public should be part of.
A census of housing and population is an important undertaking whose results will help a country to effectively formulate policies and strategies for sustained socio-economic planning. However, the 2022 Census of Housing and Population, which began on 8 August 2022 and is expected to end on 28 September 2022, has been marred with several challenges, among them non-contact, refusal by members of the general public to be counted on the basis of infringement on privacy, difficulties in accessing secured apartment, and theft of enumerator gadgets. The Zambia Statistical Agency ZAMSTAT interim statistician General Mlenga Msepa, who briefed the media on the ongoing exercise, highlighted the challenges.
The other one is refusal. Some of them, they feel that information being gathered by the census is private. I understand there are certain questions, for instance, where you ask people whether they actually own a smartphone, where they own, for example, a smart TV, or where they actually have, in certain areas where they have their own beds. Sometimes it can be a challenge. But this information is important.
Mr. Msepa further adds that Lusaka Province and Ndola Township on the Copper Belt are one such places where enumerators have been faced with several challenges. He has since appealed to members of the general public, including foreign nationals, to make efforts and be counted.
There are also some questions which a number of people may not have been very comfortable with. For instance, when you ask to say, at what age were you married? It could be a bit embarrassing, but there is a reason for that. You've heard of child marriages, but child marriages may actually be explained by certain factors that perhaps with government coming in, policies can be put in place so that people actually go through school. We recently appeal to all within the country to make time and ensure they are enumerated. It will be sad for people at the end of the enumeration to say that, no, this enumeration was not comprehensive. I was not enumerated.
Meanwhile, Ministry of Information Permanent Secretary Kenneth Kalunga has appealed to members of the general public not to politicize the matter but ensure that they be counted no matter how busy they may be.
I reiterate government's call on the traditional, political, and the community leaders as well as the church to actively send positive message in their communities and assist the enumerators to complete this national task.
With Zambia aspiring to be a middle prosperous income country by the year 2030, there is need for members of the public to be part of the solution by being counted. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
You're watching Camnet TV Main News. We take our first set of commercials. We'll be back with more after this.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
It's census time. The 2022 Census of Population and Housing will be conducted from 18th August to 14th September 2022. The census collects a lot of data for use in various aspects of social and economic planning for the country. We are all required to participate in the census by being counted. You will be counted from your usual dwelling place by a census enumerator. Please receive and cooperate with the census enumerator and provide the required information when you will be visited. Your responses to the census questions will be treated with strict confidentiality and will be used for statistical purposes only.
Hi, I'm coming to count you.
Because everyone counts! This message is brought to you by the Zambia Statistics Agency with support from the UNFPA.
Welcome back. We continue with the rest of the main news. The Zambia Public Procurement Authority, ZPPA, says it has observed that the procurement of 75 motorbikes under the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services was objectively done. ZPPA Director General Ida Chela explains that the procurement tender was conducted through a national competitive bidding process in 2021, in which 6 companies offered their proposal, and that CADRE'S Investment Limited was the lowest evaluated bidder among the 6. Mrs. Chela, however, says CADRE'S failed to deliver the goods at a contract sum of 9,585,010 kwacha, which resulted in the ministry suspending the said bidder and the contract extended to May 2022. She, however, says the nature of the bikes that the project requested for on the expense side, hence the high cost of procurement.
The motorbikes are off-road. They are for a project called Girls Education, Women Empowerment and Livelihood. And Ministry of Community Development and Social Services did get, with the help of Ministry of Agriculture, they got the specifications from them to help them, because these are the same ones which they are similar to what their extension officers use when they are going in the field, because they wanted them to be off-road. So the specs are very different from what is being assessed in the circulating in the media, that they are just ordinary motorbikes. So when ZPPA says we are going to investigate, because there's a complaint in accordance with section 96G, we already had in the evaluation report, we already had some of the sample of the specs. So it's just that now we are going to investigate the failure by this.
In other news, the Anti-Corruption Commission (ACC) has warned farmers in Central Province to desist from Farmer Input Support Program (FISP) malpractices. Anti-Corruption Senior Community Education Officer George Kanguya says farmers should strictly abide to the FISP guidelines in an effort to curb corruption. He was speaking when the Anti-Corruption, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, held a series of sensitization meetings in Kawa District of Central Province. Mr. Kanguya notes that corruption lowers the quality of service delivery and increases the gap between the rich and the poor. He has since assured farmers that the Commission protects the whistleblowers and has encouraged them to report all corruption to the relevant authority. Meanwhile, the farmers present says the warning is timely.
Everyone
that is attached to the FISIP program, they will have to check themselves and ensure that they execute their duties, their mandate, in alignment, in adherence to the laid down guidelines. We are talking to various stakeholders so that we can sensitize them, so that when the time for the actual implementation of the FISIP comes, they are able to implement the program in a manner that will ensure that the intended beneficiaries are actually the ones that get the inputs. So when you report, feel free. If someone aremi shupa pantu mwarishita report if you are corruption, or if my officers bamuboma ngabaremi shupa pantu vacha suspect ati ni mwewe report corruption. Now tukwata ifunde ilo tunga bomfi okubachita discipline. So tuiratina. Blow the whistle.
Many cooperatives have been formed into family cooperatives, whereby as we look at the entire Zambia, a chairperson will be of that cooperative will recruit members of the family, hence leaving out those who are supposed to be benefiting. As cooperators, we will look at these issues.
So insurance was cut. Tubike kwa mano. Otherwise, ichichongo chomule chali kunuma. Chikabwelelapo, elo me as that you are SEC, I'm telling you to do that. Uyoba kasanga. Who be alone? Who be alone? Camp officer, because we tell the farmers what is on the ground.
We'll take our second set of commercials. Coming next is international and sports news.
It's census time. The 2022 Census of Population and Housing will be conducted from 18th August to 14th September 2022. The census collects a lot of data for use in various aspects of social and economic planning for the country. We are all required to participate in the census by being counted. You will be counted from your usual dwelling place by a census enumerator. Please receive and cooperate with the census enumerator and provide the required information when you will be visited. Your responses to the census questions will be treated with strict confidentiality and will be used for statistical purposes only.
Hi, I'm coming to count you.
Because everyone counts.
This message is brought to you by the Zambia Statistics Agency with support from the UNFPA.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Welcome back. Getting into our international item. Torrential rains and floods in Sudan have destroyed tens of thousands of acres of land, raising fear of flood insecurity. More than 100 people have died and thousands of homes are destroyed. In other news, President Joe Biden will meet the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa this month, the White House announced Thursday, as the administration looks to draw African nations closer to the U.S. at a time when South Africa and many of its neighbors have staked out neutral grounds on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Announcement of the September 16th visit comes on the heels of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to South Africa last month, in which he said the Biden administration sees Africa's 54 nations as equal partners in tackling global problems. Here's a roundup of international news.
Gabon's President Ali Bongo Ondimba has reiterated on the need for African nations to develop strategies to address climate change, which poses an existential threat to the continent's megacities. The third African climate meeting is bringing together more than 1,000 government officials and stakeholders in Gabon's capital, Libreville. They are working to form strong African regional climate responses. The African Climate Week comes as the continent reels by several extreme weather events such as drought in East Africa and the Horn of Africa, sunstorms and extreme heat in West Africa Sahel region, and destructive flood flash storm surges including cyclones in Central, Western and Southern Africa. Egypt will host the next 27th Annual United Nations Climate Conference in November.
President Joe Biden will meet with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa this month, the White House announced Thursday, as the administration looks to draw African nations closer to the U.S.
They watch the news and they see kids being gunned down.
Biden and Ramaphosa, who spoke by phone in April, are expected to focus their talks on trade and investment, infrastructure, climate and energy, public health, and South Africa's leading role on the continent. Announcement of the September 16 visit comes on the heels of U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to South Africa last month. The visit is at a time when South Africa and many of its neighbors have staked out neutral ground on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. South Africa abstained in a United Nations visit to condemn Russia's action, and Ramaphosa has avoided any criticism of Russia and instead has called for a mediated peace. Biden also plans to host U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in December.
Awadullah Hamza has spent the last 4 months tending to his farms, hoping to profit from his harvests. But when torrential rains and floods hit Sudan's Jazeera state, much of his land was submerged, destroying the crops.
We have about 1,300 acres that were farmed this season. The rains and floods have covered about 300 acres. All what is completely destroyed is a complete disaster. Some are trying to drain the water, but as a farmer, this summer season has been a complete loss.
Heavy rains and floods have affected more than 90,000 acres in Jazeera state, home to the largest governmental agricultural project in Sudan. More than 130,000 farmers grow crops such as corn and cotton for the country and international markets. But rain and floods have affected that, as well as the economy of the state. Authorities say hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of produce have been lost.
As farmers, this is a loss for us. This season, I'll not be having anything to sell. The corn and anything else I planted is gone. I've lost more than 1 million Sudanese pounds because of the flooding.
And farmers' income are not the only concern. The flooding of farmlands comes at a critical time for Sudan. The United Nations says a third of the people in the country, or about 15 million, are already struggling to get enough food. And with floodwaters covering tens of thousands of acres, that number may rise even further. Jazeera is known as the breadbasket of Sudan, supplying half of the crops it needs. Any disruption in that supply could raise market prices in a country where more than half of the people live in poverty. Authorities say they've put plans in place to reduce the impact of floods.
We will split up the farming cycles to make up for the losses the farmers have incurred. The amount of lands farmers plant on during the winter season will be increased based on the area of land that has been destroyed by the rains.
But farmers like Awadullah fear their lands may not recover in time for the coming season, and they may suffer more economic losses. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Jazeera State.
We now get into sports news. Zambia's ladies golf national team is set to take part in the 2022 All-Africa Challenge Trophy SECT that will take place between 3rd to 13th September at the Gaikana Club in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Anin Sama of Nkana Golf Club Green Buffaloes is Kayla Mulenga Simuchimba, who is also a member of the Chinama Hills Golf Club, and Lorna Mwenda, also from Chinamba, will be representing the country. Zambian Ladies Golf Union President Mrs. Carol Masisani joint team in good shape said the team is in good shape following intensive training. She has thanked the government and cooperating partners for supporting the ladies to go and compete in the continental tournament.
To be held in Namibia, but due to COVID-19, the tournament was cancelled. And this tournament has now fallen on the Central and Central Africa's East and Central Africa, and this will be held in Tanzania. The tournament will be held from the 3rd to the 13th of September. And we wish to thank our sponsors that have come on board to support the team. The government has given us support, and Mopani as well came on board to support the team, and Lead Africa. We are really grateful to all the three bodies that have come to help us. Oh, we are confident. We know that the girls have been doing so well. They've been playing very well, and we just hope and wish them the best as they get to the tournament.
Okay, how many countries are participating?
There are 24 countries that will be participating.
Easy. We started the season starts in April. So for us to get to where we are, we really fought. And the union is doing so much. They've put in a lot in terms of helping us with the practice and everything. As we all know, it's not easy. It's kind of expensive when you're into this game. So, but the union has been giving us money for practice, which I feel it's the first time it's happening. And over 15 years that I've played in the national team, and I think a big thank you to the team, which is led by Mrs. Carol Masisani-Joy.
Well, that sports item brings us to the end of Camnet TV main news, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. A report reveals continued political cadres infiltration in markets and bus stations. ZAMSTATS implores the Zambia police to deal with people harassing census enumerators. Youths in LUSAKA'S CHIBOLYA compound abandon criminal activities. And in international news, floods in Sudan leave 100 dead, many homeless. And in sports, Zambia's ladies golf national team set for the 2022 All Africa Challenge Trophy. That is all, but before we go, here's our Camnet verse of the day, and it's coming from the book of Psalm 119, verse 64, and it reads, "The earth is filled with your love. O Lord, teach me your decrees." That is all. Thank you for watching. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Pleasant viewing.